Hey everybody, welcome back to Trekyards. As usual, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Coggins, and we are going to short range explore today's episode and ship.
We're going to be looking at the Equinox, or the Nova class specifically.
It was many, many years, and we've upgraded everything since, and we wanted a fresh look with all new perspectives, and just, guys, you know what we do. This is going to be better. But the first picture is from the show, Equinox herself, in beautiful standard definition, but Stuart, can you really see that much from this view? I mean, you can understand the shapes, but does it really come to life for you?
No, because Voyager has not been remastered.
Well, Stuart, here is the full HD version. Yeah, properly lit and rendered. Do you remember any original? I'm sure I asked you first time. Any original first thoughts of this one when she came up?
Just love the shapes, love the design. I thought it was a nice ship. I wish it was a little bit bigger, but I think this would make a killer ship if it was like sovereign size. I think the shapes are really aggressive and battleshipy. It doesn't feel like a explorer or a science vessel.
Wow, bold opinions there. Wow.
It's true. It's a nice looking ship.
Well, yeah, just the fact that it doesn't feel like an explorer. I mean, yeah, I've always thought it's a very nice, gentle reinvention of the shapes. I didn't see the Pathfinder original Defiant concept first, but as soon as I did, I sort of linked them in my brain. This is an alteration of that original concept and such. But I definitely think this is one of the nicer. It is both classic and new, innovative and different. Links to Voyager specifically, but also other things of the era, like the nacelles are clearly E inspired, as the E was already designed at this point, whereas Voyager was designed separately to the E without any crosstalk, and so the design palettes are quite different. So it's a wonderful, Rick design, but with some of those E inspired things by John. So it's a hybrid of designs.
No, it's a neat little ship, and I wish we would have seen more of it or more of them. But for a nice kind of ship of, it wasn't really a ship of the week. It was a two-parter, so it's kind of a hero ship. So it deserves kind of a good look at from us anyway.
One thing I especially love is that as you get smaller, and this is the original model from the '90s, the late '90s, right? The smaller the ship was, while still being a hero, the more detail they had to put in to cope. If you had a Sovereign or whatever, you didn't have to put as much in. Whereas things like the Federation Fighter or whatever, it had to be small and detailed. So this is actually a very detailed model for the time. Not so much in texturing, but, you can see the phaser strips, you can see all the, it feels a bit more full. But I think at this point we all sort of know the scale, Stuart, but I have some comprehensive scale renders like never before. So the next view is from the top. I wanted to compare it to what she originally could have been, sort of the Defiant, and then two smaller ships. We know this is a short-range exploration vessel, and yet you have the Federation Scout ship, which is also, in a sense, a medium to short-range exploration vessel, just in a smaller sense, and the Runabout, which they tout as being a completely, usable mid-short-range exploration craft. So just an interesting sense of, and obviously the Defiant is, well, how much punch can you fit in a similar sizing? So what do you think?
Again, it's always bothered me the size of this thing. It should be at least the size of the Intrepid, in my opinion. It just seems too small. But it is what it is. I like it compared to the Defiant. I wish it would have kind of been the Borg Buster instead. It would have been kind of neat to see this in DS9 as the hero ship. And have the Defiant be the Equinox from Voyager. That would have been interesting, because this Defiant's such a different shape. I get that it's a warship, so it's constructed differently, but I still think the more aggressive look of the Nova would have suited DS9 a little bit better. But, we got what we got, and that's fine.
And obviously, for clarity, these are the original 3D models at the default 3D scale, and you do see the ship with Voyager in the episode, and it's this size. So they might have said later it's different sizes, but this is what they used in the show. So that's what we're going to go with. And same, the Defiant does change. Sometimes this is the default scale with the original CG model, last season model, with all the light rig. So this is the defaults as seen, and that's the Fabio Federation scout ship. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to see it be smaller, because it made you think of it as being the little brother, and then there's the story of the Equinox then makes even more sense, and is even more sad that boy, it did all these things and yet was this small,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Just goes to show you the resiliency of the Federation designs and their crews, even though the crew kind of went crazy.
Well, yeah. Now, do you think it's interesting that the Voyager, and I guess to some extent the Defiant, can achieve a much higher warp speed for not that much bigger nacelles. Is that a testament to Voyager's enhanced nacelles? Because even though the Equinox is kind of a warp 8-ish ship, but the nacelles are smaller. Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
Neither. It's not designed for speed. It's designed for, scientific exploration. So yeah, again, those nacelles on the Equinox look fantastic. I love the little fin things on them, which are very reminiscent of what we see in the Disco Enterprise, actually, at the back of the nacelles. The little bonus fins.
He likes his fins, does John Eves, and this is a reference to the E. What's interesting about this compared to the default Defiant scale, I think it's 150-ish, I think, is that the Defiant you associate being a smaller ship, right? But it's only small in the sense of the internal volume you associate as being small with few crew. But if you think about, how big the bridge is? Well, they've got these massive quantum launchers which take up both sides, and all the ordnance, and the pulse phase cannons, and the deuterium. Once you add the physical things it needs to run, the internal volume starts to shift, and obviously a big shuttle bay for some reason. So whereas Equinox, all the weapons are, phase strips are self-contained pretty much in the strip, and it's got torpedo launchers and they are where they are as well. So all the internal volume is actually real internal volume, whereas the Defiant, while it looks odd size-wise, there's so much been taken up by the ordnance. And
I mean, when you go to the side view for scale, it's interesting because it does share a lot of characteristics with the Intrepid class as far as shapes go, but you still see that Sovereign class design influence as well. So it's a nice marriage of the two, and I think they did a good job there, especially that secondary hull and just the way the saucer's mounted. It just looks like the Intrepid just kind of morphed a little bit.
Yeah. Just a bit more cut up, like as in compressed, but still just as sleek. And yet you still get a little bit of the E from the bottom.
Yep, exactly.
A little bit of the E. But yeah, it's a great in the family, and I do also like how the after view or the side view is whereas Voyager has this beautiful neck curve. I like there's that hard line. It gives it that extra little depth and something else. Let's look at it in the grander scale as we now can. This is obviously combined with the final episode Gabe Enterprise D and the Digital Muse Enterprise E, both original. Yeah, any thoughts now seeing the sort of pride of the fleet and the new pride of the fleet, and they're all within the same 10 years, which is also interesting how different yet the same 10 years of design can be.
Again, I think it's too small. As much as I love the design, I think it's too small. It should be at least the Intrepid class size, but it feels very out of place. Like this is much smaller than anything else in the fleet. Even it's smaller than the TOS Enterprise.
Well, yeah.
But it was designed apparently to be like quick and easy to build and stuff. So I mean, that's no real issue.
Well, isn't that a testament though to how special it is that it is a totally functional mid-range planetary explorer, all crammed to that tiny body, all that function, all that ability, all that warp, all that everything. It doesn't need to be galaxy-sized. It can be this sized.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I find it interesting too that these small ships like this one and the Defiant don't have holodecks because they're specifically built for a purpose. However, you'd think for a science vessel, you would have at least one holodeck, so you could run some experiments as to what the planet's surface is like much like we see in that episode with Geordi, where he starts mutating into the creature. The way they reenacted the visual logs and stuff, you think that'd be important for a science ship or explorer. But yeah, if you want them quick and easy, specific for a purpose, short, like not long-term mission length, I understand the exclusion of the holodecks, but I still think for a science ship, a holodeck's kind of an important thing.
Or why couldn't they do a setup like Zimmerman had in his office, where it's just like a half a wall, so you can step into a hollow. If all you need is a projection, is a bit of a just have a half a room, have a science room with a half holodeck. All you need is a hologrid.
Yeah, but they didn't even have that, as we found out, because they had the little things that they used.
But we've talked about before. This kind of is the spiritual success of the Oberth. And that you didn't associate with any sort of plush travel. It just kind of, it goes and sciences, and it comes back, and it does another little mission, and, so you You wouldn't send this for much else, and obviously we know the fate of the Oberth, we know the fate of the Equinox. Well,
the Equinox can take more of a pounding for sure. The Grissom sure didn't.
Well, yeah. But it is really put into perspective, just the scale differences of the fleet, and it's fun to see the Enterprise E in abstract in the movies. You're like, oh, that's a nice normal size ship. And it's like, oh, it's actually really rather big. It's actually quite big. But you're saying, last thing about this scale size, if you had Equinox about the same size as the Voyager, wouldn't the nacelles feel a bit too long?
No, I don't think so. Not compared to like designs like the Sovereign and stuff. I've always seen a lot of other ship designs, and one of my things I always say is lengthen the nacelles a bit. The main exception to that rule is the Discovery. Shorten those nacelles a bit. They're a little too long. I find that the stubby nacelles are kind of I've even seen Voyager with modified nacelles that longer and trail up behind, and it just looks better. It's just a better look overall.
I've seen those. I would disagree. Sorry, that's just me.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we can't always agree, and it's good that we don't. But I like the more streamlined, looks fast, sitting still kind of look. The Voyager just doesn't have that. The nacelles look very underpowered for that ship,
which is a testament to how powerful they actually are.
Well, exactly.
It's a very Matt Jeffries concept. They're so small, yet they're the most powerful, most fast ship of the fleet. Again, testament to whatever. Whereas the E, you can tell, is longevity rather than like they're cramming so much less power per square inch. But it's about longevity and about whatever. But the next view though is the back. And do you notice something that's missing?
Impulse engine.
Yeah. Funny story about that. Next picture though. In the sketch, done by Rick Sternbach, while not obvious, I would argue that in the middle view, that top brick piece is obviously not a shuttle bay door. You can see there is a door on the other one, and it obviously feels like that's where the impulse should be. And if you look at the top view, there's a little torpedo launcher behind the neck line. I would argue reasonably visible from that view. So this is what they got at Digital Muse, but somebody didn't actually think that. They didn't interpolate the design correctly. So look at the show. This is it traveling at warp, and I'm not making it up. It is the real model. You can see no visible impulse drive. It made it into the show. So just like the Miranda, there's no visible deflector. This has no visible sublight propulsion. Did you ever notice that, Stuart? And what do you think now you're actually seeing it right in front of you?
Never noticed, but it is an odd omission for sure. And that center line one is perfect for a placement for that, for such a small ship.
It's also sized perfectly. Bit big, middle, more hard lines. So just a little bit of an Easter egg there of oops. But it's actually got 3 shuttle bays. It's got the main bay, the back bay, and I've seen the work B bay in the middle.
So the one in the middle was supposed to be the impulse engine, I assume, yes?
Well, no, the top one would be the impulse, middle would be the torpedo, the bottom would be the shuttle. But we'll go a close up later on about that just to show you in detail. But Stuart, the bottom view, again, now we're seeing it in 3D, and I've got to say I love the under shuttle bay windows just stuck in there that you really never get a sense of in the show.
Yeah, kind of an observation port. Although we have, even with the Constitution class, you got the shuttle control room right above the shuttle bay with the windows.
Follows the cannon.
So I assume that's the same thing there. But yeah, it's a nice... and I love the really loud and proud registry numbers on the nacelles on the bottom and the top. It's like, hey, look at me. We're so small. We got to compensate.
Although, I don't know if you noticed, but if you look at the nacelle, you can see there's a hard line because when they designed the 3D model, they didn't finish the specular maps. They didn't assign them properly, so the speculator sort of stops on the nacelle. Hey, a lot of detail in this mesh. They had so much time and they really kicked ass. No, there's so much detail, and they even include the warp core ejection. They've got texture mapped landing struts. They include them. They're details, little things, but they are important. Next view is the front view. We can see how much stuff is crammed into a small space.
Well, we can see the Wave Rider shuttle right there. I love how there's the addition of the lower planetary sensor dome, like on the Connie as well. They included both, which is great.
But does it look too cram-packed? Or jam-packed?
No, don't think so.
Almost, though.
Almost, yes.
Yeah. But it feels more functional because they've got them both, you know?
Yep. And I like the addition of the little greeb release with the various colors in there. I think that's a nice look. The deflector looks a little odd, the way that center part sticks out a bit. But it's a nice look nonetheless.
It's original.
Nice shapes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the greebly... I know the greeblies are following the Voyager, where it has them in the rim of the saucer, or the primary hull. But I think while the Jeffries concept of being sleek, flat hull is absolutely, brilliant, I do like the idea of having these recessed greebly panel pieces, like just here and there, because sometimes you might need sensor palettes that aren't being restricted by hull plating, and if they're recessed, then they're in the shield plate, structural integrity bubble as well, So I kind of like that little bit of detail, not to overuse them, but they add a little bit of something while not detracting from the clean feel.
Front view, though, we got the secondary deflector there, which is always a nice addition to this era of ship. And again, the way the bridge is inset, it's kind of like got a skylight cathedral kind of window, which is neat. And it's not loud and proud on top, but it still is. It's really an interesting, because a lot of people complain about that. It's like a target if it's up top. I like the way they've done this, though, where they've kept it up top, but recessed it a little bit as well.
You can also see the forward torpedo launchers just gently in there, and you can see again another little mishap of the 3D model. You can see the greebly panels on the left. They weren't correctly pulled out of the model mesh, so there's also they ran out of time, guys, but that's okay. Again, very, very good model for the time. But you said about the deflector. Look, Stuart, always very helpful. You are here, red pointies, just in case you need to know where it was.
Please
right
shoot here.
I love the Rhode Island a lot. I think it's a beautiful refit of this. And looking at the bridge, while it's a great detail, having it recessed and not covered, aren't you wasting space? If that was just flat, you would have an extra half deck.
Yeah, you are wasting space for sure, but it's a neat look. Now, you should clarify what the Rhode Island is for people that don't know.
It's the refit using Endgame, done by Rob Bonchoon in his spare time because he thought it must be different. And he smoothed out the hull and such.
And there are quite a few differences between the two, which we've kind of talked about before, but
yeah. But speaking of bridge, but jumping back then to what we said a minute ago about the 3 aft sections, here's the close-up I did. As you can see, clearly Shuttle Bay doors on the bottom and top, and the middle one has a very small door, which is why I interpret it as being like a work B door. But yeah.
See, I kind of like the idea of having the impulse engine in the middle there instead. More center line to the ship, like closer to the center of gravity. Not that it matters in space, but and right in the main engineering mix. So the feeds go out to the pylons, have the impulse thing there. I kind of like that the middle part should be the impulse engine, as opposed to the upper part, but either way works for me.
Daft. But yeah, just another little subtle thing. Although I appreciate the blinky is right in between the plate, the things at the back there, but it's not over. They did at least line it up properly. But I want to talk about the bridge for a second. Here we have the bridge. I want to talk about it for a second. So I had to really analyze this bridge and redesign it and get it done for Convergence. This is a mid-range planetary explorer. Look how big that bridge is.
It's ginormous. Voyager's bridges as well, and again, this follows the kind of same design aesthetic where it's got the captain's chair and the first officer's chair equal, spacing on there. But yeah, it is a very large bridge for what it's supposed to be.
And we've seen the top bridge module part, and it takes up the entire thing. I mean, you can visualize there's the entire middle ring. There's only like 80 crew. Half of it on the bridge, because like I said, I built this, I really analysed it, and when you see it in 3D, it's like, oh my god, there's so much wasted space. Like, the front bit, there's so much. I mean, I love the arrangement, but boy, should have been much, much smaller. And this is like a kit basher, presumably like the A set or something other. This is redressed. This is, it was so much attention was put in to make it feel original, and it becomes a Prometheus later on. But it feels so big and original, but it's just shocking how huge it is. Absolutely, to me, like I said, just... There's levels and there's... Oh my goodness. There's a lot of consoles. There's a lot of consoles that go right round. But there's a reverse view, I'll have to find it later, where there's just like blank wall flats. because they didn't want to put all the consoles because it's not the same bridge. So there's literally just like blank wall segments on a bridge.
Which I don't have a problem with a bigger bridge with a lot of science stations because that's what it's for. So they could do all their scientific stuff from the bridge. But yeah, I do like the shapes incorporated in this one. The colors. I like the captain's chairs.
But let's end on the picture 2, the big 3/4 full HD. Taking a trip down memory lane, both to the 90s and to our old episode. But I think we've definitely learned and refined our skills. I think we've seen different things this time, as I've definitely lit the model better as well.
Mm-hmm. Looks good. I'm happy to look at it again. This is a cool little ship, like I said. It's always a design that stuck out for me. I just wish it was a lot bigger. It's aggressive looking. It should be a battleship. It's more aggressive looking than the Sovereign, in my opinion.
Maybe we should do a kit bash of the model at some point, upscale it, and then because you got to then shrink shrink some details, but have the same shapes look, but just upscaled, but with the same details.
And let's make it a dreadnought. Let's put a third nacelle on that upper part, and then make the middle one the impulse engines, and put some on the edge of the back of the saucer. I could dreadnought this ship up. I'm telling you, and it would look cool.
Well, do some sketches. I'll do one version. You do the dreadnought. Well, you should do like a nacelle on the bottom as well to make it a 4 nacelle.
No, 4 nacelles. No, that's too much for me. 3 nacelles is elegant. 4 nacelles is just too much.
No, because I meant one on the top and bottom like that.
I know that.
Yeah.
No. No.
Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop with tune in for more episodes like this on other ships. We're going to do some of the old ones again to give them the new brand spanking beautiful treatment. And of course, even classier scale shots. Thanks so much, guys. Tune in for next time. Of course, support on Patreon if you can and want to. Every single dollar does mount up and does make a difference. So $5, $10, $100, $200, $1,000. It's all appreciated to help us do and go and make more.
And of course, like, subscribe, click the notification icon, do all that cool stuff, and share it around. And just come back and join us for other episodes. So, until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Holmes.
See ya.
Bye, guys.